Hey everyone, my name is Myles Sexton and I am a fashion nomad, content creator, and makeup artist based in Toronto, Canada. Um, how has my career evolved over the years? Well, I grew up in a super small town in Nova Scotia, population under 2,000 people, and I was working in a grocery store and picking apples on the side. So my career has definitely grown a lot since those days back in my small town. I first got into modeling as kind of was the entryway into the fashion industry. And then modeling kind of led me into makeup and inspiring me there. And then both of those inspired me to start designing jewelry and then creative direction and running a fashion magazine. And then that kind of just like continued to evolve and kind of where it is now, where I really focus in on like education with cosmetics and training people in cosmetics, as well as being a content creator and really kind of like owning my own social media and like social media marketing. So the journey from Nova Scotia to Toronto was definitely a difficult one for me, just because I feel I really wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. I literally moved to Toronto on my 19th birthday. I had like moved here because I was supposed to have a job lined up. And I like literally moved here in like 3 weeks, basically. And when I got here, the job that I had lined up for me, they didn't end up hiring me, apparently. It was news to me. So it kind of like threw a big curveball, I think, in kind of like my journey and my transition, leaving my small town to coming here, because I was like, oh my God, I have like $300 in my bank account, no job, and like, how am I gonna survive in this like super expensive city like Toronto? So I really kind of had to hit the ground running. I had to like work a bunch of random jobs. I was like really trying to do anything I could to try to make money and survive. So it definitely was like a really hard first like kind of year and a half getting settled into my new home and just trying to like get my career kind of going. But I don't know, it all ended up like working out. I think I just like really had to network. I really had to be present on social media. It was kind of something that took a lot of effort, despite outside of kind of like me just trying to survive and like working these like random jobs. It was definitely a journey, that's for sure. My biggest piece of advice to people that are starting their careers and like also trying to create this like online presence is that I think that authenticity is like so important. I think the last thing that you should be doing is like kind of looking at what everyone else is doing, because I think it takes away from like what your voice is and what you want to add to the conversation. I honestly like, I don't spend a ton of time really like honing in and focusing on what other people are doing online, and I really am just like, okay, what inspires me? What do I want to add to the conversation? What is my voice and the message that I want to showcase, online, and what do I stand for? Because I think like when you showcase those things on social media, it attracts people who also share in that same kind of like shared inspiration and same voice, and you kind of like build this tribe. I really feel like that would be my biggest advice. And then you're also spending like time on like things that make you happy versus like comparing yourself to everyone else that is already succeeding online. Honestly, I would say that everything else aside, my biggest challenge, I think, when it comes to like social media and like continuing to grow my brand has just really been myself. I think I get in my head a lot. I think I'm always like striving for perfection. I'm just like such a perfectionist when it comes to things. So sometimes I like won't even like begin or start something if I don't think that I can do it perfectly, which is like, I'm really trying to like allow myself to remind myself that, even if I don't succeed, I like still learned so much in the process to get there. I feel like that's definitely one of the hardest kind of obstacles, I think, is like not standing in my own way when it comes to things. And I don't know, I think it's just like reminding myself to like, I have a voice and I have things that I want to share and I want to say. And like, even if a bunch of people don't like it or respond well to it, those like few people who do, like those are the most important followers, because they're the ones that are going to be there to support you. And I feel like they've been kind of like my community when I'm expressing things, because I can always rely on them. your online following is going to grow and change, and people are going to kind of like come in and out of your social media following, and you just have to accept that, that it's a part of the journey. Well, I mean, what inspires me? I think, I really like appreciate people in their art. Whether it's someone who makes plant pots or someone who designs fashion, I get super inspired by that. I think I love when people like are expressing such like their own DNA and like putting it into an art form. So that definitely really keeps me inspired. But I think that's also contrasted with, I'm very inspired by nature and like plants and travel, and these things are also really important for like the fantasy, I think, that I get inspired by inside of my head. I feel like both of those things are kind of things that I seek out and try to like see what I can kind of put my own twist on. I love seeing like our local fashion weeks and like what collections the designers are releasing, and when I see their collections, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like then I love like taking some of those pieces from the collection and then like giving it my own story that's like a part of myself. So for example, recently a designer released kind of this like cowboy-esque kind of genderless collection, and I was so inspired by that, and I wanted to kind of like do a shoot that was all embodying of this kind of like cowboy. 'Cause to me, like that resonated to my hometown and where I'm from, but I kind of wanted to like reclaim my power. So being this kind of like genderless cowboy that's like wearing dresses and playing with that as like a way of me like reclaiming a part of my life, that was like a bit traumatic. How do I keep my ideas innovative? I think the biggest thing when it comes to like innovation, I think, is trying and making mistakes. It is really about like just doing something that like inspires you or feels natural for you to do, and then like maybe it's a success, maybe it's not, but I think that you learn through the process of that. I think that is the best way to be innovative, is to just try and make mistakes and see what sticks and what doesn't stick. Sometimes I'll do this like big elaborate video shoot for something, and it like totally just flops, but then I like release this short tiny little clip of just like me wearing an outfit and like me saying something silly, and like that is what goes viral. So you really have no idea like how the kind of like algorithm and the social media world is going to pick up on something. So I think it's just trying and making mistakes. So some of my best practices when it comes to navigating the digital communication world, I think, is number one is just making sure that you understand, I think, how much effort you're putting into the content that you're creating, and making sure that you release it during a time when you're going to have the most set of eyes on it, because it takes time. One post or one video, it's like that is a lot of work that goes into it. So I know that you could feel that you get really excited that you want to post it right away, but maybe you're posting it during a time where like everyone's sleeping and no one's going to see it. So it's just making sure to like look at your schedule and being like, okay, I have this amazing post. I'm going to post it at 8:30 in the morning because that's when the most amount of people are going to be on, Instagram, for example, and you're going to be able to get the most engagement. And I think like kind of like reap the benefits of like having more eyes on your content. So that'd be the first piece of advice. My second piece of advice would be engagement. I think making sure that you're like connecting and you're responding, to your following, especially from a business perspective, I think is really important. I think that it just really helps to build a lot of like trust and loyalty with your following. And being open to their questions as well, I think is super important. I don't really love when I see that social medias are like, they take this sort of like pedestal thing, and they're not communicating or responding to when people are like taking time out of their day to like leave some love or maybe have a question about something. I think it's like making sure that you have this kind of like continual flow of communication is super important with building your community and the trust of your followers. Last but not least, I think it's just making sure that you are creating content that is like authentic and true to you. I'm going to keep saying this because I just feel that there's so much on social media right now that is like so repeated and isn't giving your own voice to the content. And so people get very bored, you know, that's why people unfollow you, or they feel that they're like no longer interested in the content that you're posting. So how are you making sure that you're staying true to your brand, and you know, whether that's through the imagery or like the colors or like the types of animations that you're doing, it's just trying to like stay very relevant to who you are. And if you don't, this just doesn't inspire you when you're watching it, then you probably shouldn't post it at all. So, you know, so don't just post something for the sake of posting it. You want to make sure that you're like posting something that really inspires and captures you and you feel proud of posting. So I feel like those are like the three most like kind of common mistakes that maybe people make, but that when we look at it, it can be like a really great best practice to grow, you know, your online digital communication with your followers.